It wasn't my intention to become an entrepreneur. You know, everyone in Sharqiya, they know that when you grow up, you have to work for Aramco. But me and my co-founder, we sense the lack of technology and say, you know what, let's build that app.
Ahmad Al Zaini is the co-founder and CEO of Foodics, the region's largest restaurant management software and payments company serving over 40,000 locations.
Today, everybody is selling logins, username and password. What I'm actually telling my team, we shouldn't sell logins anymore. In 2030, people will start selling outcomes, results, and usage.
We discuss how AI will wipe out jobs, but it's not necessarily bad news. Why he's not looking to exit and why to him it is still day one.
I have met like 40 VCs.
40?
Yeah, I end up having 3 term sheets signed with one.
3 term sheets.
Yeah.
Great. I think for everyone who's listening, this is so important.
You're growing like 200-300% in the early years.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be an entrepreneur.
So I'm definitely an emerging market junkie. I like to go to the frontier.
Okay. Give us the meat, Abdullah.
You need to be able to make the sacrifices that are required for this journey.
Take pride in your job. This too shall pass.
Yes.
So why don't you maybe give us some highlights just for the listeners to understand
yes.
how big Foodics is today and what you do.
So today, alhamdulillah, Foodics, since 11 years now, Foodics processing more than $13 billion as we speak. The target by end of the year, we hit the $14 billion GPV.
Gross
value and payment value. Today, the pay penetration more than 20%. The target by end of the year, we will hit, actually doubling it, hitting closer to 40% of the revenue is actually payment revenue, where we take around 1.2 take rates of the total GPV that we are actually processing in the software system. Also numbers that I'm really proud of, that 40% of my businesses, our Foodics business, is actually outside Saudi. And that's proving that, land and expand strategy.
I think, Saudi has, at least from someone outside looking in, I've been in the UAE for 23 years, so a very long time. Saudi was always, this market that was always like an enigma, right? We look at it from the outside. How do the people think there? How do you do business there? Is it easy to do business there? And so on. And then all of a sudden, about, I think, 7-8 years ago, obviously Saudi opened up. A lot of things changed. I remember, I think the post, obviously MBS taking over and all of a sudden, like Saudi became this magnet for business. Like all the big businesses wanted to, look into that market. It became the prize market to win for founders. Obviously, it's where you want to be because the market size is so big there in comparison, for example, to the rest of the GCC. You started building in 2014. So before all of this was glamorous, how has it changed for you from back then? First of all, actually, why did you think you wanted to be an entrepreneur as a young Saudi man?
It wasn't my intention to become an entrepreneur. Actually, in 2014, I never thought about the vocabulary of entrepreneurship or being an entrepreneur. Everyone in Sharqiya, they know that when you grow up, you have to work for Aramco. But during the last 2 years in the college, me and my co-founder, we were engineering at the university. I'm electrical, he's a computer science engineer. And we sensed the lack of technology and say, let's build that app, that poor coffee shop that changes the prices by papers and stickers. So let's build the back end and front end with an application that it's easy for them to change their pricing or edit in the backend, and by that we come up with the first concept. By the way, I never thought that I will get financing or even VC. I don't know, Aslan, there is VCs in the region.
Yeah.
Until I went to...
anyway, back in 2014, there weren't many.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Literally none. So to answer you, I suddenly become an entrepreneur or called an entrepreneur. And by the way, I don't believe any entrepreneur beside maybe Silicon Valley in the region that he wake up in the morning and then he decided, let's do an entrepreneur. No, I believe he pushed, the consequences, the qadar, they pushed to become there.
Yeah.
For any circumstances, you need to connect the dots backward. What is the real reason that indirectly this entrepreneur become an entrepreneur?
So what was it for you? You didn't want to work for Aramco?
No, I was curious. I was curious enough to build technologies for others. So since my early years, and I am the tech savvy or the CTO of the family. So anyone wants having any problem with the technical problems, I'm
Fix
there.
the router.
Exactly. So I'm curious to know and just dig in the problem, and then end up being a customer that they want me. They want the product that we build just to complete that. By the way, even the pricing for the first 7 clients, just keep it. Well, how much you want to pay, just pay. I see there's a problem. I'm building this just to make you happy. Making you happy, later on I will figure out how I will make money after that. And start seeing there is something called cloud technology in the US. There are some companies doing the same. And then I figure out, I think there is a big opportunity to do a cloud point of sale in the region.
What was the first check that you got? How much was it?
Umar Majdoui was Riyadh Ventures, even before he founded Riyadh, by the way.
Okay.
It's a big story long story with Riyadh. So Riyadh, I reach out to Umar. I know the family very well. So they were having one of the famous coffee shop brand in Sharqiya. So I went there to sell them my product, and then Umar, long story short, they end up actually investing in the business. And I told him, hey, Umar, I don't like investors, because investors end up taking majority of my business and then end up working for my company under his new company. So 80% they will take, and just I will cornered by 20-15%. And then no, why? It's your company. I will just invest $1 million riyal. By the way, this is the first check, $1 million riyal. And for 5% of the company. Go, yeah, we have a deal done. Okay. And then even I remember the lawyer that he finished the paperwork for the investment. Actually, Umar's lawyers. So I told him, hey, Umar, please, I trust you. So just my lawyer, your lawyer is my lawyer. Just ask him to do the job. And then we end up having the first check, $1 million. Hitting in my account. And then you know what my first thing I did? I hired an accountant. I never had an accountant in the whole organization. My CTO, my co-founder, he was the CTO and the accountant. Just but now it's $1 million riyal, so it's a lot of cash. So I need an accountant to do it for me. Okay. So it was.
That was your first hire, an accountant.
First hire, yeah.
Interesting. Is it still the same today, Ahmad? Doing business in Saudi. Do you feel it's still like that, like a kind of a handshake business? I have my, you have my word type thing. Is it, or has it changed a lot now that obviously it's grown so much and so on? I mean, can you do this today? Go to an investor and say, you know what, I trust you. Bring your lawyer. Let your lawyer do the paperwork. It's fine.
Short answer, no, not anymore. Now there is a lot of competition, and I think now the market is very much mature. versus what happened before.
Yeah.
And this is where nowadays, because more of I don't call them non-VCs, but they are not VCs.
Yeah.
They are investors. Just want a piece of the cake of a company that they like, and then they start involving in the business, and then the business just struggle. And this is what I always advise entrepreneurs: you need to do a due diligence to the investors as equal what the investors are actually doing a due diligence on you.
This is great advice, because I think you'd be surprised. Until today, I was actually literally talking to an entrepreneur just before I came here. He wanted my advice because he's raising money and he wanted to meet an investor. And I said, how much do you want to raise? He said $50,000. I said, why do you need an investor for $50,000? Go to your family, your friends, your colleague. I think people need to understand, and thank you for saying that, because it's so important that not all money is equal. Some money comes with a lot of headache.
Exactly.
And some money comes with a lot of support, and some money comes with a lot of experience. So I think this is great advice for founders that choose your partners, your investors carefully, because you're gonna live with them for a for a long time.
We see this, by the way, in the companies that we are acquiring, for example, or acquired, where we see that the cap table is very, very messy. And the main reason that we see a major shareholder in the organization, and the founder is almost single-digit owner. And then
at what point is that?
It's after 10 years already of the venture. But my point is, when I ask about this, why this major investor is actually having this, and then basically he was my first check. How much he put? It's example simple amount, like 50, 100K. That's it.
And they own what?
It's 20%, 25% of the business, and this is where. And by the way, plus he's in headache. So the founder was cornered to sell the business to a strategic or anchor investor like Foodics, for example, and this is where I think plus they become headache to us as an acquirer. So you need to have to be careful onboarding an investor to the cap table, because there is a lot of blocker they can put on you and become one of the decisions that the acquirer tomorrow will walk away because of that, or because of him. So this is one of the important. You need to be patient. My short advice, as you mentioned, first check pre-seed or ideation phase. Okay, friends and family. You don't need to go, or go to the studios or incubators. They are very good to proof in your business, and they pay that amount with a huge leverage on mentoring, use cases, benchmarking, and so on.
I think there's a lot of awareness on that now. More and more people understand that they also should check the investors and find out from other startups that they've invested in if they're if they're good or bad, and really what is the value. Because I think now every investor is going to tell you, actually every investor pitch you hear is that we bring value. We're not only cash, we bring value. So I think it's good to understand, what is this value.
See, honestly,
you want to say something?
Yeah, I need to say something that in my experience, how good investors, how the investment, let's say, culture become more mature when there is more exits. More exits, more track record. And then, honestly speaking, the region say a number of track records, maybe 10, maybe 20 exits
in technology.
And in my experience, raising growth capital. Let's say growth capital now.
Growth capital is how much you mean when you say growth
100
capital?
plus.
$100 billion
$100
funds?
billion, tickets, like growth.
Tickets?
Not
funds. Okay.
No, tickets. Growth funds in a company,
in the company.
Like Foodics. So growth stage, my advice: don't take from Saudi. To take from the region even. Why?
Okay.
You need to look globally, because growth funds comes with their terms, and then you can co-lead it by local investors.
Okay, explain.
For example, the term sheet terms that comes from outside, it's more friendly,
Founder friendly.
versus if you will go and take those growth funds from private equities locally or companies locally, family offices. They will own 10-20% of your company, but they better advise, no, take the whole cake better. Don't just tie me up like this. And this is what I did.
So you mean you would rather that they buy you
exactly
than
just
invest in you.
Invest in you.
If it's a regional family office
Exactly.
or a private equity firm.
Yes.
Why?
Because of the terms. Because
Okay.
as a growth stage, you need a growth VC that have done it before. So like Sequoia, investors that they really understand the stage of investing. By the way, if they pass, then look into yourself, look into your market or your company. What I did is we create competition. So a couple of term sheets globally, and then we match the term sheets that with locals, and by that you can get the better deal, better terms. I'm saying, and then don't pay attention a lot on the valuation. This is an advice. Yani, premium valuation with a very harsh terms. It is really bad. It's really bad. And moving on. So my advice is just pick the right investor.
Great. If you are at that stage, so if you're a founder listening to this, you're at Series B, you want your Series C, I don't know, $50 million check, and they want to go outside to get funding. How did you do? I mean, how did you meet these people? What's the best way to do it? Is it your existing investors that made the introductions? Is it you? How did you do it?
So nowadays, you can just ask your ChatGPT the top 100 VCs growth stage that have invested or they have in their strategy that the region is really interesting for them, or the vertical is, and then they will do it for you, and then start looking around who one of the family offices that they are actually an LP or private equity that they are actually an LP on those
in those venture capital
then ask
funds.
for an intro.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm proud and lucky to be part of Endeavor, for example. Part of 500 startups, Sanabil, the PIF VC arm. Those all have the right network and connection. Actually, I put myself with 5 chiefs on a plane to San Francisco and spend like a week there. I have met like 40 VCs.
40.
Yeah, I end up having 3 term sheets signed with 1.
Sheets.
Yeah.
Great. I think for everyone who's listening, this is so important. 40 meetings.
Yes.
3 term sheets. This is a company that's like scaling, and this is Foodics. This is not like some.
Yes, I'm talking about.
So this is a company that's doing very well already.
Yeah. See,
did 40 meetings and got 3 term sheets.
Yes.
That's the conversion.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, having more, pitching your company. That, by the way, help you a lot. Revisiting your strategy or your pitching skills as well. So because all of those top-notch VCs, by the way, why I'm getting only Tawfiq min Allah, well, I can also tell 3 term sheets because many of them, I was selling Saudi. I was selling the market. I was promoting how Saudi is good. They actually dived in on the data, the market data, raising the expectation. Some of them, for example, they invested in 4 years after that. Why?
After the meeting.
After the meeting. They did not invest in Foodics, but invested in a company in Saudi.
Okay, like A16Z? Are you
For
talking?
example, yes.
Yeah.
So why, when I met A16Z, by the time they told us Saudi and the region is not in our radar. We are not investing there, but we're happy to welcome you visiting an office. We would love to learn about the country first, the market first, and then Foodics.
Excellent.
And so being that is you're an investor for a country and for the region.
Yeah.
And this, I believe, nowadays, alhamdulillah, you see a number of Egyptian entrepreneurs, Saudi entrepreneurs, Kuwaiti, Jordanians, UAEs. That's all send the same message for because the region here is the I don't want to say the story of it, but not the next Silicon Valley, but it is really promising.
Yeah. I mean, do you think this will be the next Silicon Valley?
I believe, because you see how talents are traveling and moving from all of around here. By the way, two things. One, I believe hiring talents from the US, it's not anymore a challenge. Before, I was really hard, hiring talents from very similar industry to, for example, Foodics, from the US, Europe to Riyadh. Actually, relocating to Riyadh, it was really a nightmare. It is very hard. So the maximum what I did is hiring them as an advisor. Just, hey, I hire your shadow. Please take the information from that advisor that's sitting in San Francisco or New York. Nowadays, no. I have my CTO, couple of my executives in commercials, growth. They are relocating actually from Boston, New York, San Francisco, Toronto, UK,
Paris.
They Arabs? No, not all of them are Arab. Yes, they're moving here. By the way, and they are super in love with the country. One important thing, by the way, the good thing I feel, the non-Arab people, they like Saudi because of the culture, the heritage, the history.
It's different.
It's different. And then there is something, it's not a piece of land in the middle of nowhere, and for a sudden we find out oils and then there is some country there. No, Saudi is a history. So this is what makes them interest to come and this. By the way, most of them, they come, okay, I will try to relocate for 1 year and then I will decide. Now they are over 4 years, almost.
Interesting.
The second thing is AI. So before AI, location is important. Being in London, being in San Francisco, New York is important to build like the unicorn business. But nowadays with AI, be whenever you want to be.
Say more, Ahmad. So for people, again, that are listening that maybe are young and trying to figure out, you see all the time on Instagram, when you're looking on Instagram, this guy built a $100 million startup on Replit or
exactly.
You know what I mean? Or like so there's a lot of talk about like the one, eventually you're going to have the $1 billion one man or one woman, hopefully, company. So AI, right? Why? I mean, you made a great point. Like now it doesn't matter where you are. Why is that? I mean, what is AI unlocking today for, let's talk about people maybe here in the region.
So AI, let's talk about the story, what happened in February this year. So February, Anthropic released the first add-ons on the co-work enterprise add-ons. The moment Anthropic launched that model, the sell-off in the US market is around $300 billion.
The sell-off. Okay. In what sector?
In software mainly.
Okay.
Software.
In SaaS.
In SaaS, in software. And why? If you see those add-ons, Anthropic, Claude for legal, Claude for accounting, finance, etc. And by that, I think from October 2025, the number of market cap is really lost is around $1.4 trillion.
Okay.
Because of that.
This is in
software. In my opinion, for example, Figma's lost 70-80% of their value, Salesforce 30-40%. And the main reason here is before investors were telling themselves that SaaS growth will be tied with seats growth, that the number of hiring smart people that you hire, by that you are growing. They discover that this is not anymore true.
Yeah, because companies are not hiring more people necessarily.
Exactly. So also looking to the data, software is actually not dying. So AI is not killing software. Actually, this year, the total revenue from software businesses, for example, it's $1.5 trillion. Companies are consuming and buying software. 1.5 trillion, 15% growth versus last year. And that's meaning there is a very high need for the software nowadays. So there's no risk on the software businesses. But my takeaways is, and maybe this message is to my dear friends of those CEOs that they have software, they led the software businesses. I believe in 2030, what will be happening is actually the market will not pay for logins. They will pay for outcomes. For outcomes and ecosystem and usage. So how much I used, how much outcome and result you are
So they will not
me.
pay per seat, basically.
No, basic. Seating is a different topic. Seating is about how companies will start building software. Today, SaaS hires engineers and they can build product and software. Nowadays, one engineer, instead of just doing the actual coding, the engineer will do the product, the strategy, the checking. So nowadays you need to be an AI engineer, not an actually coding engineer. And this is where actually the cost of building becomes much cheaper than today. But the good thing is it's more productive and more efficient. So by for example, instead of hiring, let's say 200 engineers to generate for you $100 million ARR, you will hire 50 engineers. That brings for you $200 million ARR. So this is how you need to think.
Or you can keep the 200 and have more.
Have more, exact. I like this mentality. And this is what I advise people or entrepreneurs. Like, you don't need to fire. Don't lay off. By the way, you need to lay off and actually replace the mentality. So this is also a message to the the employees of that organization. You don't need to be the tool. Because being as an accountant or being as a supply chain officer or an HR or an engineer or a product guy, you are that tool. Today with the AI, you should manage the tool, which is the AI. So AI become the tool and you are the manager of the tool. And how I see tomorrow, AI will erase and cancel the bottom set of the career ladder. As a fresh graduate, you will not start an intern in a startup or an organization. And then maybe some people will work for a barista or a cashier, then apply for a job in an organization like an internship that does, for example, data entry, then stock taking, then been promoted to become a floor manager or an inventory manager. Today, that bottom line of the ladder of the start career shift will be really removed.
So what
and you
would
will
people
become
do?
the manager of the tools. So that the difference is
Okay, so the job is still there.
the job is there, but you need to be smart enough how to use the AI.
Okay. Interesting. So it's not like interesting. So this is a fresh take on it. So usually it's like yes, AI is going to take all these, let's say, commoditized type jobs, accounting, data entry, etc. And then these are usually the entry level jobs,
Entry-level
right?
jobs, yes.
But you're saying that there will still be an entry level job, but it's not that.
Not that.
It's managing the AIs that are doing that.
So the job is tomorrow.
Okay.
You are not doing the work. You will check the work and do the outcome results.
Yeah.
So you will be the controller. And honestly, my really advice to those let's say people that they are applying for a job, fresh graduate students, for example, don't focus on how to become an accountant or how to do this administrative work. Try to graduate with a actual use case wallet from AI. So don't graduate just with a certificate. That will not help you. You need to graduate with a actual use case of AI. Nowadays, in my interviews, in my company, Foodics, I'm not super care about how experienced you are in the field. Because I see the AI is the actual PhD intern that you are onboarding them. You are helping, the human being will start helping onboarding the PhD internship in your organization. What I will ask in the interview, what have you done with AI in your life?
Wow.
Show me case study. If he's starting saying that, ChatGPT, I help, forget, you're not AI anymore. What you are actually built, what you have built with AI in your life.
Mm-hmm. But it could be something simple. It doesn't have to be.
Of course, it's not. You're not an engineer, but
Yeah.
today, simple with AI, you can do a lot.
Very interesting. So and great advice. So basically, you're saying if you haven't played around with the AI tools and built stuff, it's like you don't know how to use the internet. Let's say whatever 20 years ago.
Exactly.
So it's a must.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's more important than your degree.
By the way, one of very important thing, I see in 2030, AI will change the way people will buy software.
Mm-hmm. When you say software, Ahmad, what is that? SaaS products or any software?
Any software, your Gmail, your website,
your Zoom, your
Shopify, your Foodics, your any your Zoom. Exactly, you will not pay for software, but because actually this is what I see. It's not about today. Everybody is selling logins. By the way, login, username and password. Mm-hmm. What I'm actually telling my team in the organization, hey, we shouldn't sell logins anymore. Mm-hmm. In 2030, people will start selling outcomes, results, and usage. So,
can you give an example of outcome?
For example, in Foodics. So Foodics, we are in a great opportunity with the AI for 3 reasons.
You just bought an AI analytics
company. Yes, a Greek company. It's really one of the great talents.
Okay. And just I think for everyone to know, I think you announced that as well. You have $100 million earmarked for AI acquisitions or M&A.
M&As, yes.
Okay, so anybody wants to sell a company? Call Ahmad. Okay.
Let's see. So three applications. One, 3 layers, let's call it. One is Foodics has the highest the greatest, let's say, restaurant rich data set. And as everybody knows, AI agent cannot work with a dumb data. You give him the right data and they will thrive for you.
It will do magic, yeah.
So Foodics has the richest large restaurant data set that have the set of logins, set of system registered. The second thing is the agent operators. So today we are managing, of course, the acquisition of Norma is one of the initiatives that we are doing in that layer exactly. So we are building our MCP that understand exactly what the restaurant owners will do. Of course, leveraging data, the first layer. So today, you don't need to log in to a portal of Foodics, for example, and start going to the menu and then start hitting to the cappuccino, for example, button, hit the edit, change the price from 23 dirhams to 30 riyal or whatever, and then you click save, and then published, and then go refresh, and then call the branches, hey, please check if this. No, you will just talk with the system. You will talk with your agent. Hey, agent, I need you to fix this price of the cappuccino in that particular location, and that will hit. By that, you will need to hire, as a restaurant owner, guest experience, best chef, the right recipe and look and feel. And this is where the area, as a restaurant, you want to focus there. So actually AI will help a lot in that. The last layer that we are also tapping in is become a result output company or service. So today you will go ask the agent, please build for me a promo campaign on my slow seasons in the coming weekends. And they simply build the whole campaign for you based on the data. So this is how people want to think. And my advice, the people that they are actually working in SaaS companies, don't fight the AI. Don't compete the AI. You need to manage it. You need to manage the AI. Because this is the mentality that I am facing, and I'm changing it in every organization I mentor. I've been through it, because the problem is, as the same topic, that it's not about laying off their organization. No, it's replacing by the right mentality. Bring fresh blood that they are actually understanding the same. This doesn't mean that you don't have, but you need, as an employee, as a team member, let's say, to become curious enough about how to deal with AI. AI is not your threat. AI is actually your partner. And this is what you need to change in your... One very important thing. Jack Dorsey said a very great opinion about how the modern entrepreneurs or modern startup will look like nowadays. Yesterday, it was the traditional org structure, like very traditional org structure, the CEO, it's horizontal or vertical, this old way of building companies or managing companies. What he mentioned is, today, the org structure of a circle should be a circle, and the AI in the middle. The AI intelligence in the middle. So all your team are actually built around your agent, and everybody's fielding it. And this is exactly what we are building in Foodics. We build actually two agents. One internal, we call it Rushd. And basically Rushd is the
advisor,
is the PhD intern.
Okay.
So it's actually that the agent that in the internal our org structure. So they talk to the CFO, everyone can talk to
Okay.
Rushed and engaged.
You have
Rushed,
how many employees in Foodics?
700 now.
700.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have another, we will announce soon, this MCP that for others that I just mentioned, which it will be the operator, building the campaign, understanding logins. And that's why I'm super excited about the future. So AI will makes the organization much efficient, much stable. You will stop doing boring stuff. Having one accountant versus and one accountant and it's not versus. So and 10 agents. So tomorrow, as an accountant, you will not actually do the accountant work. You will start managing the output of your 10 agents and to do the check on it. Imagine how the productivity would be.
I'm with you. I'm all for AI. I can see it on a personal level how much I'm able to do today versus before. I mean, it's incredible. I use it in investment decisions. I use it in podcast research prep. I use it to say who is Ahmad Al Zaini. So, no, seriously, I mean, there's I think so. I've built a website on it. I'm trying now to build an app for my investors on it as well. I mean, to share deals and so on. I think what you can do as an individual with the right mindset is key. And I think you touched on something so important. And actually, next, I'm gonna have in the next episode, we're gonna have the CEO of Bank, which is a digital bank.
Send him my regards.
Jay. And he, you know, he really was saying that org structure is like the next big thing, right? Like, how do you structure your organization? Exactly. We were having a chat, obviously, just to discuss what we want to talk about. And he said, like, you know, if you have a lawyer who builds an accounting tool, you know, is he a lawyer, an accountant, and where do you put them? So I think this is a very interesting point that you touch on. I do want to touch on one more thing before I let you go, and otherwise I would have continued the conversation on AI. But I want to talk about exits. So you said in the conversation that you know, we're not like Silicon Valley, we're not like Europe, we don't have so many exits. Things are changing now. You can get talent more, you have more money, etc. Companies like Foodics and the few others now that are being looked at by everybody, you know, I think you carry the responsibility of the entire ecosystem because everyone's looking at what's going to happen. How do you you know, think about returning money, let's say, to your investors? How when you know, I mean, obviously you have an IPO option and you have a sale option and so on. And I'm not asking you to tell me what you want to do, but I'm just asking you, how do you evaluate the different options as a founder today?
So today, I think first of all, you are as a builder, as a founder, you have a mission to accomplish. And everyone nowadays with the AI, I'd be surprised if the mission of you as an entrepreneur is not even 10x in terms of the opportunity and the potential. For me, the excitement that I already have serving the problem of the industry that I'm serving, you cannot imagine how I'm super excited, as if I'm 10 years back knowing nothing about entrepreneurship. It is super excitement. And the thing, I'm lucky to have Foodics, by the way. I'm lucky. Nowadays, anyone that have an asset like Foodics with the AI, the number of application you can use in your company, you are the manager. Tomorrow I can try and error any application in my organization. And this is the flexibility I have. So this is why starting and coming to the point that the building is really continuing, and by that talking to any exit options. Actually, exit is not the way of being like the final stage
it's
of
not actually. A lot of the founders that have exited are still running their businesses.
Absolutely.
So it's not like see you later, I'm out.
Exactly. So that's why I always see going to the market. It is and sharing your strategy with the market, having the support of all of the market investment, the market money, even echoing your strategy with what we have with all of your partners, business partners, investors around. That's a great option. Those people, they are considering, for example, exiting to another enterprise, because nowadays, for example, it's a good any CEO of a legacy traditional org structure or whatever, that they are facing difficulties of implementing AI in their organization, they might consider, acquiring one of the agile companies. And this is a good option if they have the right...
You're doing that.
Exactly. I'm doing it, of course, for my venture that I'm acquired. So both options are right. But my message to those entrepreneurs or CEOs, please, there is a superpower you have, especially with the noise that everybody has today, the noise of AI, the noise of news, that it's not your area. Please, your superpower is actually being alone with your thoughts, being alone, away from the news. Just do what you are great of doing, which is building. You have a right, solid strategy. Just focus, dear builder, in building it. So your superpower is actually being alone with all of the noise you have. And please don't be in somebody else's priorities. You have your own priorities.
Yeah.
Today, the algorithms of the social media engineered to drag you in something maybe it's not in your agenda.
Yeah.
So because every entrepreneur cares a lot and they have this FOMOs, you need to increase your belief in your God, believes in yourself and your mission, and just stop paying attention to the social media and news. And if you really want to read something, please read books or podcasts for people that have done it before.
Yeah.
There's a lot news, a lot information globally that really help you continuing your mission.
You reminded me of a conversation I had a while ago. I had Tommaso, the former CEO of Talabat, on the podcast. And he said it's always better, in a chase, it's always better to be the gazelle than the lion.
He's a great leader. Yeah,
because when you're a gazelle, you're only focused about the way forward.
Yeah, the target.
And you're not just like chasing someone. I mean, again, what you said is extremely important. I think there's so much FOMO out there. Yeah. People think they should be doing this because someone else is doing that, and so on. So I guess your answer to the exit is you're still excited about building. Yeah. The right answer will present itself, I guess, to you, to Ahmad. Yeah. What you feel is the and your co-founder, I guess, what you feel is the right
yes. Tara, by the way, if you
decision,
if for 1 minute you decide, you think that you need to exit, then you are not in the right.
But it's not mission. For you, Ahmad. It's for your investors, right? So you need to provide
liquidity.
Ra'id's first check.
Mashallah, he already
he made a lot of money.
Made a lot of money, even partial. Exits. So
so that's happening now in the region, by the way.
So by the way, secondary market for a private assets like Foodics is really hot if the company is really doing well. So alhamdulillah, I don't think. Maybe I don't feel in Foodics that it is a necessary for. It is not a problem in my organization because alhamdulillah we have a very good mission toward that. But my message to all of the entrepreneurs that their early investors want to exit, Tara, it's okay to have a secondary round, like to bring a strategic investors in you and just clean up the cap table.
Yeah.
If you don't need to have a primary.
Yeah. It wasn't. I don't think it was well known that you can do that. But I think more and more I'm seeing a lot of that now.
Yes.
And I think it's healthy for the employees. It's healthy for the early investors. I think it's great. So this is also an option.
By the way, it's we did it, Tara, by the way. And
why
we are
didn't you tell me?
It's still options always.
Okay.
But see, we usually buy back a refresher, let's say, shares from an employee, especially those they passed like 4 years in the organization. That's really helpful for them.
You buy back. Interesting.
Yeah, as a company.
So you give them liquidity from the company.
Of course, and then of course issue another refresher stocks for them. This is a special program for the high nowadays with AI. Those high AI first talents.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, no, but that's also very interesting.
Yeah,
it's to be able to give liquidity as well to people who have been there for 10 years with you.
Yeah, they want to see the value of being shares vested. Yeah.
Do you have people that have been there with you for 10 years?
Yes, my founders, mainly the founders, because Tara, I'm proud to build. This. Everybody is talking about Kareem's mafias.
Yeah.
So now, I do have now Foodics Mafia.
There's a Foodics Mafia.
Amazing. I can recall
a
couple of 10, 11 ventures. I end up investing in them, supporting them. So, that, give back to the ecosystem, because I see, for example, talking about building 1, 2, 3 ventures as entrepreneurs, that really helping the ecosystem and the market. And we are seeing this a lot in Saudi, in the GCC, in the region. The second, even investors. So founders that exited and then become an investor. Tara, by the way, they are the most helpful for the sectors.
Talking to one.
Of course. You are my best lead source for me to invest for a good founders.
Yeah. Ahmad, when you are not investing in Foodics and other tech startups, what do you invest in? How do you create wealth for yourself outside of Foodics? Are there any other areas that you invest in?
Besides real estate, of course.
Real estate in Saudi?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Real estate is one of the biggest areas in Saudi. And mainly, so I'm
Where was the last place you bought in Saudi?
Riyadh. Riyadh is a big opportunity. Okay. You cannot imagine how great is even the opportunities there. Riyadh, Mecca, Medina, Jeddah, even Sharqiyya.
So real
estate, and startups.
If you were to describe the aspiration of a young Saudi person today, outside of obviously what you read in a report, مثلا, the majority of the population is under 30, all of that stuff. What's do you have a pulse on that? What's the mood as a young Saudi man or woman today in Saudi or in Riyadh?
I think they all are really highly educated, highly curious. People stay seeing the opportunity of investing, learning inside versus consuming and spending outside Saudi. So this is how I see the recent generation is really curious enough. We sponsored a high school hackathon, like I don't know, it's 18, 17 years old. They are actually building products with AI.
That's excellent.
And the level of participation is the dean of that school. It's almost 70% of the people. So imagine that, how the generation, and all of them are Saudis. So imagine how the next generation will be building.
That's great. I want to thank you so much for sharing from your experience, from your learnings from Foodics. Lot of great advice, especially on topics that I think are on everyone's mind today. The fear of AI. Do I partner with it, or is it gonna replace me? Especially for the younger generation, I think we covered a lot, especially also on the Saudi opportunity and how the market is changing, and hopefully we'll see also a great. I'm not going to say exit, because as you said, you're still as excited and you still see the opportunity. And I think that's the beauty of being a founder, by the way. You don't get bored.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Like people in normal corporate jobs, you get bored after a while because you're doing the same thing over and over.
Yes.
As a founder, you have a million opportunities, that open up, and a million things you can do. So I think I hear you when you say, like, I don't want to stop, like I'm going. So, but I think a lot of eyes are on Foodics and similar companies to see how you're going to shape the ecosystem with the results that you drive, and the Foodics mafia and so on. But thank you so much for taking the time to come here today.
Thank you, Loulou, for our opportunity. It's really great.
Okay.
العافية.
Thank you, Ahmad. Thank you so much for tuning into this conversation with Loulou, with Ahmad Al Zaini from Foodics. To get to know my work a little bit more, you can visit my website with Loulou, that's loulou.com. Wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and do give us a rating and a review. It really helps in getting the show discovered. Make sure you share this episode with whoever you think would benefit from it, friends, family, and colleagues, and see you soon.